Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Tim Hanna, and now it's time for possibly my favorite segment, Coach's Corner, with me, Tim Hanna. I'm sitting down now with Creighton Elwood, the sports director for X106. Creighton, good to have you on again.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I love being on the show.
You see, we said we'd have you on more, and we did it, and we're going to keep doing it. We love having you here.
It's all about sticking to promises.
Right. We're going to just keep throwing you a bone. You keep coming on and doing a great job. All right, well, let's talk real quick. I know I mentioned before the break we were going to talk a little bit about men's basketball. We'll take a quick look at women's basketball before we get into the MIAA champions. Now the girls team, unfortunately, they dropped 2 straight games this past week. They sit in 12th right now in the MIAA. Lincoln's behind them, I believe you said before the break. Let's just kind of talk about what they need to do to get into this tournament, and it's something they've just been struggling as of late.
Yeah, well, I mean, the season's coming down to the final stretch, 6 games left, and really they have 2 games at home between Lindenwood and Lincoln, and those are huge games. I mean, all of them are not very good, but I mean, if they lose to Lindenwood and lose to Lincoln, they're more than likely sitting at that 13th, 14th spot because they're 2 games behind Lindenwood and Kearney, but tied with Lincoln in that 12th spot. And you know, that 12th spot and 13th spot is the border for making the tournament or not and going down to Kansas City to play.
Yeah, those are going to be some big games, and especially going in, they're going to take on a really talented Pitt State team, a team that won conference last year, or I believe they won the tournament as a women's team. So it's going to be a tough road for the ladies.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but I mean, anything with Buck Shield and this team, I mean, you got to look at Benson and Myers. You really got to get those 2 the ball. They've been having the hot hand lately, and I always say you got to feed the hot hand. So not impossible, but definitely tough.
No, they did play extremely well, really, in the first half against Washburn, and then it kind of imploded on them as just shots were not falling. You know, sometimes you'll have runs like that on Saturday. But now we can turn to men's basketball, something everyone's talking about here in Maryville. Yeah. They're undefeated still. That's just crazy to think how late it is in the season. They won the outright MIAA conference standings with 4 games in hand still. They beat out the Ichabods barely. They were tied 31-31. They were shooting. They would look so lethargic in the first half, but then led by Pitts, Zach, and Kurth. Talk about the game Saturday and just how they took over.
Well, I mean, Pitts doing his thing. He's going to get his points every week. Zach Snyder a little bit off to a slow start, but as Coach McCollum always says, he always has the green light, and he found a way to get it in the basket when it was late. I mean, he had the game-switching basket. He had a 3, and then from there on out, Northwest goes on a 6-0 run, and they won by 6 points. The second half is really where they turned things on, but Devontae Mosby is really a shining spot for me. He really played well, not on the stats. He was the 2nd leading scorer, but he did things. He was matching up with a guy 2 inches taller than him and absolutely holding him out of the paint. I mean, aside from moving and stopping the dribble drive in, he played a very great game and very underrated, I think, as a defender.
Yeah, Mosby was definitely dominating down, really bodying his defender offensively and defensively, just moving him out of the lane. As you said, he had 13 points, 2nd score, 7 total rebounds, and 21 minutes. So he obviously not coming in as a starter, but he saw a lot of action, especially with Doherty in foul trouble.
Yeah.
But you can also take a look, as you said, Zach had such a good game, but Xavier Kurth really stepped it up, and he was one of those spark plugs in that second half that led us to that 6-point lead. And just his emergence this season with Woods going down with an injury, he's really kind of stepped into that 6th, 7th man spot, him and Mosby.
Absolutely. Those 2 6th man of the year contenders between each other, and Kurth has definitely stepped up. You see him clapping his hands every time that he needs a team to have a big defensive stop, and he's one of the guys that can shut down one of their best scorers as well. I mean, the point guard for Washburn is not one of their leading scorers, but Pitts was on him, and Kurth really shut down their top scorer in the guard position for Washburn, and that really was a key factor in the game as well.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of a defensive matchup, very low scoring, especially in the first. But they were able to come away with the victory as Kurth, he did have 10 points, 5 rebounds. All in all, a great performance. We can talk a little bit about Justin Pitts. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Possibly the best player in the country. He had 22 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and 4 assists.
Yeah.
And looking at this statistically in his career, he is at 1,629 points, real close to that. He will most likely, you could say 3-4 games. So by the end of the regular season, we'll break that 1,700 mark. And more than likely, that record's him at Northwest, barring an unforeseen him not coming back next year or something like that.
Well, very impressive, especially for a guy that, you know, only stands at 5'9". He's a foot, if not more, a little bit less than playing with all those other guys out there. And he can get it done offensively, defensively. He can lock down his defender, but when he splits the double team and goes straight from the 15-foot elbow all the way to the basket and finishes 2 feet away from his defender, it's pretty impressive. So I think he's going to be the key when the Northwest team goes down to Kansas City and plays an MIAA tournament. Looking at regionals, Northwest could actually host a couple of games here, and why not even look even further to the national championship? It might be a little soon for that, but definitely the regional tournament Northwest should have their eyes on hosting here.
Yeah, it would be amazing. What an atmosphere it would be here. Pitts in the game, he was shooting very confidently. Not everything was dropping for him. He had a few step-back threes that I bet McCollum wasn't too happy with, but that's what you need from Pitts, especially how he played last year in the regional and in the NCAA tournament. He put up 70 points in 2 games, and as you said, going to the MIAA, it's not all on him, but how much rides on Pitts, and is it on his shoulders going through the tournament? Because he's that catalyst who is consistently scoring the 20-so points that the Bearcats need.
Well, he did have a little bit of a rough first half. I mean, he did score, but Michael Jordan always said that if I'm not doing good in warm-ups, you know that I'm going to have a great game. And if I'm shooting well at the start of the game, I'm going to be just fine the rest of the game. But if Justin Pitts can go on and score like that, not going to make any comparisons to Michael Jordan, but he's definitely the spark plug for this team.
All right, final question. 4 games left. Some very good teams we're going up against. 2 away, Pitt State on Thursday, Missouri Southern Saturday, and then Lindenwood and Lincoln back here at home the following week. Do you see us winning out regular season?
I don't see anybody in the MIAA even competing with Northwest. I said weeks ago on my show that Washburn was going to be the toughest game remaining for Northwest, and as of now, it looks like it. Yeah, absolutely. So I see Northwest going into Kansas City undefeated and hopefully coming out of there with another MIAA postseason championship. So.
Well, let's hope they can do that. Let's hope they can run and get to the tournament and have one here at home. What a week that would be for Bearcat athletics. That's all the time we have, Creighton. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
We're going to take a quick break, guys. When we return, we'll talk goose hunting and even some other Bearcat athletics. You're watching Bearcat Update right here on KNWT Channel 8.